A fragile, nearly imperceptible line separates physical attraction from authentic affection. We believe we can differentiate between these emotions, yet we frequently mistake one for the other, as a caress or tender moment might not originate from genuine feeling. The phrase, "I love you," could simply be desire's voice speaking. Carl Jung, the renowned explorer of mental depths, stated that affection transcends mere pleasant feelings. From Jung's viewpoint, authentic caring occurs when two spirits unite with complete transparency, without facades, barriers, or strategies, only genuine existence. However, the difficulty emerges here. How can we determine if the person next to you genuinely cares or simply wants you? In this presentation, you'll discover 4 subconscious indicators that expose one of affection's most profound mysteries. Is he reaching your spirit or merely attempting to claim you? These apparently minor behaviors hide realities that even he might not recognize he's revealing. As usual, I present a small test for you. Continue watching until the conclusion if you're genuinely dedicated to your path of enlightenment and development. Should you remain until the finish, you'll not only uncover his authentic emotions, but also connect with something deeper, the hidden aspect of yourself that draws a specific type of bond. Comment with, "I embrace the test," or simply, "Test embraced," to participate as we begin today's first section. First indicator, the intense stare. Number 1, first indicator, the intense stare. Within every close relationship, the eyes serve as the primary and ultimate truth-tellers. They can convey raw attraction, yet they can also become the passage to deep spiritual connection between two people. This represents the initial indicator, possibly the strongest, for determining whether he genuinely cares for you or merely views you as something to be desired. The eyes cannot deceive. They require no speech, serving as the initial gateway to inner knowing. They penetrate directly into your consciousness, and you'll sense your intuition responding. A wave of sensation emerges, one beyond description, sometimes excitement, sometimes a shock, sometimes merely a gentle exhale. I understand not every look is identical. Some eyes examine you as though mentally removing your garments. Certain gazes focus obsessively on each contour of your form, creating the sensation of being a stunning display piece. Yet there exist different gazes, profound, meaningful, peering directly into you as though hearing something you haven't yet found courage to voice. That represents the look that awakens your inner knowing. Carl Jung stated, "Your perspective becomes clear only when you examine your own spirit. Those who seek externally dream. Those who search internally awaken." As during the most private moments when all barriers dissolve, it's the other individual's eyes that reveal the most about them and affection or its void. A person motivated purely by want will view you as something to possess. That stare contains longing, yet lacks substance. It moves across you because you have attractive skin or appealing shapes, but it doesn't genuinely focus on you. Want seeks ownership. It craves stimulation. It seeks to envision, to dominate, to contact the body. Such a look is frequently hasty, brief, or filled with possessiveness. It represents the instinctual eye's gaze, perceiving something it wishes to obtain rather than connect with. Affection, however, differs. It doesn't observe you for self-satisfaction. It remains in the gaze like a youngster sitting before flames for the first time. When a person truly cares for you, his eyes embrace you without confining you. They aren't rushed, not self-centered. It's the expression of being present, of someone completely there with you, within you, as though the surrounding world disappears. In that instant, two sets of eyes conduct a meeting between two spirits that have recognized each other. Jung termed this the awakening of the feminine archetype within every male. When the anima awakens, a man no longer functions solely from logic or instinct. He begins experiencing the world with emotional depth, with compassion, with longing for genuine connection, not merely contact. The clearest expression of this awakening is a gaze that listens not to sounds, but to feelings, to existence, to those aspects of you that you might not yet dare confront. When in love, the gaze doesn't simply look outward, it mirrors the inner realm. A man who truly cares can observe you and silently embrace you, even your flaws. He doesn't perceive you as a perfect fantasy to preserve. Instead, he sees you as a genuine being, delicate, hurt, longing to be cherished. He isn't afraid to touch that delicacy because his gaze doesn't condemn. It's simply there, honest and completely present. During moments of physical closeness, there exists a form of communication that never travels through words, only through the eyes. If he maintains your gaze in those most exposed moments, after a kiss, during an embrace, or amid the uneven breaths of lovemaking, that indicates a man who is present with his complete being. No need to say, "I care for you." In that gaze, you know he is here with me. Conversely, a man driven by fear, hiding, or inability to connect genuinely will avoid your eyes, especially in those vulnerable moments. He might kiss you passionately, yet his eyes remain shut. He might make love intensely as though you are his entire universe, but he won't dare look deeply into you in that moment. Jung called this the shadow, the rejected aspect of himself that makes him fear exposure, being seen, losing control. For a truthful gaze is where a person is truly observed, not just externally, but deep inside. In reality, many men don't understand what they're avoiding. They think they're simply not romantic, charming, or dreamy. But the truth is, they've never been taught to open their hearts and embrace vulnerability. When love is missing, their eyes turn away. For looking deeply into you means looking deeply into themselves, and not everyone is prepared to face themselves. True love doesn't fear being observed. It stands there imperfect, undecorated, but real. Jung believed that when love appears, two egos make room for unity, where souls can connect without weapons or masks. The eyes are the first bridge of that connection. A small but meaningful detail is the look after closing one's eyes during a kiss and then slowly opening them. It's not just instinct, it's a confirmation, as though he's asking, "Are you still here? Is this real?" It's the trembling of someone in love, not from uncertainty about you, but because for the first time he feels something too real to be a dream. You cannot fake a gaze, nor can you mistake the gaze of love for the gaze of possession. The one who wants to possess you looks as though evaluating, examining, calculating, and claiming. The one who truly loves you looks as though offering themselves quietly, sacred. However, true love doesn't stop at the gaze. It lies in the place he assigns you in his heart. And that is where the next sign emerges, where you are not merely desired, but prioritized. Second indicator, priority setting, when your happiness becomes the center. Number 2, second indicator, priority setting, when your happiness becomes the center. When a man truly loves you, what he craves is not his satisfaction, but the feeling of witnessing you happy. At an instinctual level, everyone seeks pleasure, but true love transcends instinct. It doesn't merely seek gratification, it seeks harmony, a place where the ego is no longer the center of the universe. And this is most evident in how he behaves during intimate moments, not in their intensity, but in the degree to which he prioritizes you. A man driven by desire will always act to achieve his goal, release, conquest, control, or proving something to himself. To him, you are a means to satisfaction. Your emotions, your comfort, your experience, all are less important than him getting what he wants. This is the kind of man who is often rushed, who doesn't listen, who lacks the patience to truly feel your presence. He may touch your body, but he never pauses to sense what you're feeling. In contrast, a man who truly loves you does something very different. He listens to your body and emotions as if they were an extension of himself. He wants you to feel comfortable, valued, and at ease in every intimate moment. Your joy is not a secondary bonus, but the primary goal. And this isn't a behavior learned from sexual techniques online. It's the natural response of a man with a genuine emotional connection. According to Carl Jung, this is a manifestation of the integration of the ego and the unconscious, a state he called conjunction, or the union of souls. In this state, one no longer seeks individual gain, but begins to act as part of a shared system. He doesn't aim to impress to score points. He simply wants you to feel safe and truly connected with him. And when that happens, intimacy becomes a sacred journey where both can touch the deeper layers of consciousness. What makes this prioritization clearer is that it appears in the smallest details. The way he asks what you like, remembers what makes you smile, adjusts his pace to ensure your comfort, or simply pauses, looks at you and asks, "Are you okay?" With eyes that genuinely care. Love is present in those moments. It's not a technique, it's a surrender. And deeper still, it's an act that transcends the ego. The ego always demands to come first. The ego wants to receive before it gives. But when a man truly loves, he is no longer controlled by the ego. He can step back not out of weakness, but because he has realized seeing you happy makes me happy. This is a shift from the instinct to possess to the energy of connection, what Jung called the awakening of the anima in a man's soul. In reality, you can feel this difference. In relationships based solely on desire, everything feels like a race. Every action is aimed at the finish line. Release. And afterward, there's an emptiness, a coldness, a sense that you've just been used. But in love, every movement has depth. Every touch, every gesture comes from a place of authenticity, a desire to be present with you, not just physically but spiritually. Sometimes this manifests in his willingness to step back, to pause when he sees you're not comfortable. He doesn't pressure you. He doesn't sulk because you're not ready. Because for him, your consent isn't about crossing a threshold. It's about entering a world where you are fully in control, and he is there as a companion, not a controller. Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." True love doesn't demand dominance or seek to prevail. When a man truly loves, he doesn't try to control the experience. He surrenders to it alongside you, and that's why you feel loved, not used. Ask yourself, does this man pay attention to you, not just to your appearance, but to the quiet emotions, the signals your body is sending? Does he pause when you need it, listen when you're silent, make you feel valued instead of measured? Because in true intimacy, the other person's joy isn't a sacrifice, it's an essential part of one's joy. And this cannot be faked. People can learn to speak eloquently or mimic romantic gestures, but true prioritization cannot be rehearsed. It comes from within, from a motivation that transcends desire, a motivation that only takes root when true love is present. A man who desires you will want you to satisfy him. A man who loves you will want you to be fulfilled for your own sake, not his. A man who desires you will see you as an experience. A man who loves you will see you as an extension of himself, a place where he finds himself in your joy. And that is the simplest yet most profound test in intimacy. Whose joy is being prioritized? If it's yours, not because he has to, but because he wants to, then perhaps you are in true love. For, as Jung said, love is a profound harmony between two souls, transcending instinct, transcending words. When true love exists, you don't need to ask because the other has already chosen to place you before himself. Number 3, sign 3, presence after third indicator, remaining present. After intimacy, intimacy. There is a moment that many overlook, deeming it insignificant. Yet it is precisely in that moment that the true nature of a relationship reveals itself most clearly. The moment after physical intimacy has passed, when the fervor of the flesh subsides, when desire has quieted, when there is no longer anything to conquer or prove, what remains? What does he choose to do? Where does he go? And how does he remain present with you? In the light of Carl Jung's psychology, this is when the transcendent function begins to operate. When the ego temporarily recedes and the true self starts to emerge, a man who truly loves you will not leave the moment the rush of euphoria fades. He doesn't vanish as if he's completed a task. On the contrary, he stays not out of duty, not out of courtesy, but because of a profound need to continue being present with you. He doesn't want to withdraw from the moment just shared, because for him, it wasn't merely a physical experience, but a journey of deep soul connection. And after that connection takes place, he wants to preserve it in the quiet of holding you close and kissing your forehead. Jung believed that moments of intimacy are a gateway to the depths of the unconscious, where the hidden parts of ourselves suddenly surface. No more masks, no more strategies, no more rational defenses. After reaching the peak of emotion, the body and mind fall into a stillness, and in that stillness, we have the chance to be our truest selves. For many, this is a frightening moment, but for someone truly in love, it is a sacred one. In contrast, a man driven solely by desire cannot endure such vulnerability. For certain men, physical satisfaction serves as the ultimate objective. After achieving this aim, they find no compelling reason to remain. Immediately turning away, reaching for their device, such behaviors communicate volumes. They don't pursue emotional bonds, merely personal fulfillment. Such conduct stems from ego-driven motives rather than genuine affection. The ego consistently dreads quietude, vulnerability, and authentic expression. Authentic love, however, welcomes stillness because it comprehends. Within silence, reality surfaces. A man who genuinely cares won't withdraw as though completing a task. He'll tenderly stroke your hair, rest peacefully alongside you, perhaps whisper something gentle, or remain wordless while you sense it distinctly. He remains present, not departing anywhere, not merely physically but emotionally and spiritually. He exists there as though you represent a sanctuary where he can release all barriers, becoming himself without needing to perform or demonstrate strength. Sometimes, during such moments, he'll reveal things you've never heard previously: a childhood recollection, an anxiety, an unresolved question, because he feels secure enough to expose his most fragile aspects. Carl Jung termed this ego withdrawal, a condition where the ego ceases controlling every response and the unconscious begins expressing itself. When this occurs, two individuals stop performing roles, no longer the powerful man or the captivating woman. Only two spirits remain, existing beside each other, as though the external world has vanished. If you've ever encountered such an instance, you'll understand it's far from insignificant. It represents the quiet proof of authentic love. The misconception about intimacy's conclusion. Among the greatest misunderstandings regarding intimacy is believing the climax represents the endpoint and everything concludes thereafter. However, biologically, this is exactly when the body and mind reveal the deepest truths about feelings. During climax, the body releases a flood of hormones: dopamine, oxytocin, and prolactin, each serving a specific purpose. Dopamine, the pleasure hormone, generates feelings of enjoyment and momentary satisfaction, which a man might pursue if driven exclusively by lust. Yet immediately following, dopamine plummets dramatically. In that decline, a man's authentic nature begins emerging. If the bond is purely physical, after dopamine diminishes, he frequently experiences apathy, disconnection, or even agitation. He might retreat, become disinterested, or suddenly grow distant. This isn't deliberate cruelty, but a typical physiological reaction when no emotional attachment accompanies the experience. Here, dopamine functions as a reward, and once obtained, the ego returns to itself with no motivation to remain engaged. Nevertheless, if deep emotional attachment exists between you, a man's brain doesn't merely release dopamine, it also produces oxytocin and vasopressin, hormones connected to closeness, bonding, and faith. These are frequently called bonding hormones, causing the body and mind to desire prolonged nearness, to maintain the moment, to linger longer. At this juncture, his decision to stay after intimacy becomes more than just a biological response. It's proof of a deep connection. Carl Jung didn't discuss hormones, but he grasped that human behavior is largely influenced by unconscious drives, aspects of ourselves we don't consciously acknowledge, yet act upon regardless. These chemical reactions following intimacy represent a form of unconscious communication. A man who is genuinely connected to you emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically will experience an entirely different physiological condition after intimacy. He doesn't feel finished but serene, not relieved because it's concluded, but relieved because he's with the correct person. The courage to remain vulnerable. In today's world, where haste dominates and feelings are often hidden behind performances, a man choosing to remain after intimacy is no longer automatic. It's an action with deep psychological meaning, requiring something uncommon, the bravery to stay in vulnerability, not just remaining physically, but staying with his emotions, his attention, his unprotected presence. If you've encountered the opposite, a man turning away immediately after completion, leaving you feeling hollow, trust that sensation. Your body doesn't deceive. It recognizes when it's been treasured and when it's been exploited. The chill after intimacy doesn't originate from temperature. It emerges from the emptiness between two souls that never genuinely connected. Jung once wrote, "Isolation doesn't arise from lacking people nearby, but from inability to express things that feel significant. You can lie beside someone, but if they've withdrawn into their realm, you're as isolated as if you were alone." Nobody instructs men how to remain. They discover it through love. Love serves as the quietest instructor, not teaching with words, but with the sensation of being themselves beside another without fear of injury. A man only learns this when he loves, genuinely loves, no longer performing a character, no longer needing to conceal. Sign 4. Unconscious harmony, the dance of two spirits. Not every connection starts with conversation. Some bonds are so deep they need no vocabulary, no arrangement, no one to establish the rhythm. They simply occur as if two people enter an invisible realm where heartbeats, breathing, glances, and physical movements begin merging into unity. Jung described this as a vivid expression of the collective unconscious, a space where two souls not only encounter, but recognize each other during intimate moments. If there exists a harmony between you and him requiring no effort, it's not coincidental. It's when your unconscious minds begin communicating to your conscious awareness. When you adjust your position, he follows naturally. When you inhale deeply, he breathes in unison with you. When you yearn to be embraced tighter, his arms strengthen just before you can express it. This is the invisible harmony that psychology terms limbic resonance, the emotional synchronization of the brain. It's a clear biological expression of a secure and profound emotional bond. This harmony cannot be rehearsed. You cannot pretend to be in rhythm with someone you don't genuinely connect with, because the body, unlike speech, cannot deceive. A man motivated solely by desire will concentrate on movement, technique, control, or achieving the objective. He behaves as if directing a game, sometimes as if performing, sometimes as if operating a machine. You can sense it. Everything might appear smooth, but something intangible is absent. The vitality, the presence, the awareness of you in that experience. In contrast, a man who genuinely loves you doesn't manipulate the moment. He flows into it like water, neither controlling nor being overwhelmed. He doesn't lead to demonstrate power, nor does he surrender passively. Your bodies become two instruments performing the same melody, each movement met with a natural response without words, without plans. In that harmony, the ego dissolves, creating space for unity. Carl Jung explained this phenomenon as a manifestation of the archetype, the ancient soul pattern, specifically the archetype of the sacred union that has existed in the collective unconscious for millennia. the ancient recognition. In numerous ancient cultures, genuine love was always depicted as the reunion of two soul fragments that had been separated from each other. When they meet again, everything finds its path back. This explains why, when two people truly connect, they don't need to learn how to be together. Their bodies, their minds, and deeper still, their souls have long remembered each other. This state is also known as interpersonal synchrony, when the nervous systems of two people begin aligning, leading to reflected micro-behaviors. In simpler terms, if a man is genuinely attracted to you, he unconsciously mirrors your actions, smiling when you smile, shifting position as you do, touching you in a way that reflects yours. You feel like you belong, not in a rational way, but in rhythm. This never occurs in relationships driven solely by desire, because desire only activates the reward center, while authentic love activates the regions of connection and emotional regulation. Think back. Have you ever noticed a strange alignment in your gestures with his? When you're about to turn, he gently adjusts with you. When you want to pause, he naturally slows down. When you shiver, he tightens his grip without needing to hear you say, "I'm cold." This is the unconscious in dialogue, needing no language, no logic. It is a synchrony that transcends awareness, where two nervous systems decide we are safe together. Conversely, when intimacy is based on scripts and performance, you'll feel a cold distance within your own body. He may be beside you, but not with you. His gestures may be correct, but they lack spirit. He responds with logic, not emotion, and you'll realize even in the closest moments, you still feel alone. Becoming your truest self. Jung once said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. In genuine love, two people don't just harmonize, they become their truest selves together. When the unconscious aligns, all defenses melt away. No need to be impressive, to maintain an image, or to perform attractively. All that remains is a quiet but powerful energy. The strangest thing is you feel at peace. In purely desire-driven intimate behavior, your state may be arousal, but afterward it's often exhaustion, emptiness, or regret. But in intimate synchrony, you feel complete, gentle, and at peace. This is because your body is no longer operating as an object, but as an extension of yourself and the other. Jung called this enantiodromia, the process of merging two opposites to form a unified whole. A man and a woman, no longer bound by gender, roles, or ego, become two beings present together in a reality beyond naming. Because this synchrony cannot be acted, learned, or forced, it becomes one of the truest proofs of real love. It doesn't appear at the first meeting. It doesn't come from impulsive emotions. It only emerges when there is a connection deeper than attraction, a bond between two unconscious parts that have learned to trust each other. So if you're wondering, is this true love? Listen to your body. Is it responding naturally to him? Is there a synchrony happening without planning? Do you feel like you belong with him effortlessly without force, technique, or preparation? Because ultimately, unconscious synchrony is not just a sign of love. It is the oldest language love uses to express what reason can never fully articulate. When two people truly connect, they don't make love. They become a living entity expressing itself through the rhythm of harmony. The lesson of self-love, awakening before seeking to reach that sacred connection, you must be ready. Ready to turn inward, listen to your intuition, and face yourself before seeking another. And so it's time for the final lesson, the lesson of self-love. Number 5, the lesson of awakening, loving yourself before seeking love. Loving the wrong person is not something to be ashamed of. It's what happens when you ignore your inner voice, dismiss clear signs, and trade your intuition to hold on to something that deep down you know isn't real. Nothing drains a woman faster than giving herself to someone who doesn't truly see her, who doesn't love her deepest self, and worse, who doesn't allow her to be herself. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." When you're not awake, your unconscious drives you. You're drawn to men who don't love you with their hearts, but only look at you with eyes of desire. You fall into a cycle of trying to be chosen, kept, or loved, instead of asking, how am I living that attracts this kind of love? And more profoundly, am I loving myself in the way I want to be loved by another? True love arrives when you're complete. Genuine love doesn't come when you try to mold yourself to someone else. It only arrives when you align with yourself, when you're so complete that you no longer need someone to fulfill you. In that state, you don't seek love as a lifeline, but as a resonance. You don't need someone else to prove your worth because you've already affirmed your presence with the light within you. Awakening is when you stop asking, does he love me? And start asking, am I living true to who I am? When you dare to face your shadow, the fears of abandonment, feelings of unworthiness, habits of people-pleasing, or the desperation to be loved at the cost of yourself, you begin what Jung called individuation, the journey to return to your authentic self. Only when you're awake enough to choose yourself can you choose the right person. You cannot expect a man to love you deeply while you continuously reject yourself. You cannot attract true love if you maintain a toxic relationship with your inner world. You must learn to love yourself not through indulgence, adornment, or display, but by accepting all that you are, including the imperfect parts, the broken pieces. A man capable of true love won't be drawn to a facade of trying to prove yourself. He's attracted to the energy of a woman with depth, someone who has walked through her darkness and still stands whole, needing no rescue. She is a woman who knows she isn't a half searching for her other half, but a complete soul ready to meet another, not to trade herself away. The process of awakening. This awakening doesn't happen in a day. It's a process of sitting with yourself after every hurt, not to find fault in the other, but to ask, what part of me allowed this to happen? Awakening lies in refusing to lie to yourself. You no longer excuse thoughtless behavior. You don't justify ambiguity. You stop romanticizing relationships that make you question your worth. Instead, you embrace a vital truth. Love never comes from trying to be loved. Love comes only when you stop trading yourself away. Carl Jung likened love to a process of alchemy, an inner transformation where instincts are refined into emotions and emotions are elevated into soulful understanding. You don't need love to save you. You need love to reflect the light you've already kindled within yourself. Remember this, when you truly love yourself, you become incompatible with half-hearted connections. You'll no longer be drawn to those who seek only the physical. You'll lose patience with those who make you question your value. In that moment, you begin to attract men who have learned to love, not with desire, but with sincerity. Love is not a reward, it's a reflection. If you want true love, you must first become a safe space for yourself. That space doesn't need to be perfect, but it must be authentic. It must be honest with your vulnerabilities, your unmet needs, and your deepest desire to be loved wholly. So before you ask, does this man love me? Pause and ask, have I loved myself enough to no longer accept what's unworthy of me? Conclusion, the flame of true love. Love isn't a sudden rain that soaks your shoulders and vanishes in the sunlight. True love is a flame, not so fierce it consumes, nor so cold it dies out, but steady, gentle, enough to warm a soul that has weathered storms. To recognize it, you don't need sharp logic, but a heart quiet enough to hear the subtlest signals. A gaze that doesn't rush, a touch that doesn't demand, a presence that doesn't bind. A man who truly loves you won't make you doubt yourself. He will make it clear, not through promises, but through his presence. If this exploration has prompted you to see your relationship from a new perspective, if it's helped you realize that something about him isn't worthy of you, then consider this journey of understanding as your guide to recognizing authentic love when it appears.